Welcome to Zen Money Monday, weekly conversations with innovators, thought leaders, and entrepreneurial junkies about building good businesses, exploring what the idea of Zen money really means, and how to achieve it. With your host, author, business strategist, and Zen Money CFO, Liz LaJoy.
Welcome back to the Zen Money Monday show, and today I want to talk about clarity. That sounds a little woo-woo when this is a show about how to build a business, but here's why. It's amazing to me how many entrepreneurs and small business owners that I talk to don't have a really clear plan in place for where they want to go. That's not to say that they don't have ideas and that they don't have big dreams about certain things and what their next projects are going to be and that they want to become a $10 million business someday. But a lot of the time, it's not specifically drawn out in terms of financial goal setting. And I find that really, really interesting. I was having a really hard time a few years ago when I was working with clients who really wanted this idea of Zen money, but they didn't actually want to do the work. So we had all their books taken care of. We were meeting regularly. And one way or another, they were avoiding the conversation about how to change their relationship, how to change their habits around their finances. So they had big dreams, they had big goals, but they weren't super duper clarified in terms of, what in the next quarter, I want to double my revenue over last year. I want to make sure that my profit increases by 10%. We weren't getting down to that granular level. And let's be honest, we don't always have to. But I was trying to encourage them to start digging into their numbers a little more clearly. And I was having a hard time bringing them along. I felt like it was my fault that I wasn't having a clear enough conversation about why drilling down on your numbers can be such a catalyst for your business. And I was struggling with this, and I was thinking about writing my second book, and I had all these sort of loose thoughts around it. And then I read a book called The Soul of Money, which many of you probably have heard of, by an author named Lynn Twist. And this came out a while ago, but I think it's very pertinent today. And it really changed my view because she talks about how to create a relationship with money on a personal level, but we can apply it wherever in our lives, that allows us to look at achievement outside of those dollars. And there's a quote that I use in my second book, Zen Money Map, that I want to read to you because I think it's very pertinent. We all have an identifiable, though largely unconscious and unexamined relationship with money that shapes our experience of life and our deepest feelings about ourselves and others. Whether you count your change in dollars, yen, rupees, or drachmas, money is the one central linchpin issue in all our lives. Everyone is interested in money, and almost all of us feel a chronic concern or even fear that we will never really have enough or be able to keep enough of it. Many of us pretend that money isn't important to us or think it shouldn't be. Many live openly with the accumulation of money as our primary goal. And no matter how much money we have or don't have, the worry that we don't have or won't have enough of it quickens our heart around money issues. The harder we try to get it or even try to ignore it or rise above it, the tighter money's grip on us grows. I don't know if that means anything to you, but when I read that paragraph, I thought, oh, okay, here we go. Because it gave me a doorway to start a conversation with our clients in a different way, in a sort of non-traditional financial management kind of way, because I realized that the missing link was being able to tie our day-to-day ticky-tacky financial work, that means bookkeeping and record keeping and reviewing accounts and reviewing reports. But if we can tie that to your bigger dreams and goals outside of money, although it all has an underlying money linchpin, as Lynn Twist writes, then it can be a much more positive relationship. It can start to open you up to seeing the possibilities for your business through the lens of finance. So the more we talk about where do you want to go and what are your big dreams, and help you see that steps we're taking right now today can make an huge, incredible difference in where you're actually going to go, and you being able to hit those big goals and dreams on time or even sooner. It just allows us to focus a little bit more, because a lot of times I find, and maybe you do as well, that, the financial work is not super fun. It's kind of drudgery. It's the same thing over and over again. And as we've talked about many times, it's repetitive. And it's backward looking. And that is not where most of us want to spend our time. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to make a big change in the world, who loves the thrill of starting something new, who really wants to make an impact, then looking backward seems like anathema, right? It seems like the wrong thing to be doing. Those of us in the financial management world, or just business management in general, maybe more in that, less dreaming, more doing state, tend to look at this as, check marks that need to be made, I's that need to be dotted, T's that need to be crossed so that your business is healthy and clean and your taxes are paid on time. All of those things are really valid as well. So we have this dichotomy between the dreamer in us and then this financial reality around our businesses. And I have found that if we can tie those together with some really specific and yet really juicy big financial goals for yourself and your business, then a lot can shift for you really, really quickly. So this is how we kick off all of our work with our Zen Money clients, whether they're training or we're working with them long term, is sitting down and saying, really, 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 where do we want to go? So this kind of falls under the realm of finding clarity. So if you've done emotional or spiritual work, it's a little bit the same there, where we're taking a look at, how do we emotionally connect with this? Why are we in business? What are your big dreams about that? And where do we ultimately want to go? If we start with the why, it's a lot easier to track down to the what, the when, and the how. So for me, Zen Money really means having financial integrity in all areas of your life, your business, your personal life, with your local or global giving. If you're like many people I know, you want to grow a business that is successful financially, but you also want to be able to use that as a platform to give back. A lot of entrepreneurs are very, very altruistic, and we want to create great things in the world. And guess what? If our business is thriving and we have a lot of extra profit, we get to do that. We get to decide, I don't need all that profit just to keep my own house lights on. I can now give back to a local community initiative. I can help bring clean drinking water to third world countries. I can help with reading enhancement, education, whatever floats your boat, whatever gets you excited, is something to continue thinking about in terms of your big term goals. We want to make sure that you yourself are really solid and not in a fearful place financially. We want to make sure your business is growing really well in a way that doesn't feel like you're going to, hit a roadblock anytime soon, that the money is flowing through that in a great way. And ultimately, that it's generating enough abundance, if we want to use that word, that you're able to do what you want for yourself and do what you want for your community. So part of the financial clarity work that we do when we work with clients involves looking really closely at what you want, right? And I like to break it out into 4 categories because we are not just our business, although we may spend a lot of time there. So I want you to think about setting goals for yourself on a personal level, meaning you and yourself, and that's it. Oftentimes, especially if you're a woman, you might think of personal and it might extend to your kids or your spouse or your parents, right? This category is just for you. We have another category for relationships, and that's where all those other people come into play. We have a category for business, of course, because that's why we're here to talk about. And then we have a category for community because, as I said, a lot of us want to be able to give something back at some point. It may not be today. Maybe the plan holds true that it's in 10 years. Maybe it's in 5 years, whatever it might be. We want that bucket to be there. And when we're thinking about our big goals, I want you to just get really, really open to what makes you feel good inside, not just a should goal, but a what do you really want goal. So on the personal side, it could be something as pragmatic as saying, you know what, instead of ignoring my retirement funding, because as an entrepreneur, I sort of lost track of that and I don't have a company to put into my 401k anymore. So on a personal level, I want to make sure that I'm fully funding a Roth IRA this year, right? That might be a personal goal that's very, very down to earth. Taking care of your future self, that's a wonderful goal. But we want to set that goal with a time frame and a dollar amount as well, because we can put these things out there, you know, in our head. But it's even better if we write it down on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet somewhere. And it's even better if we put a time frame and a specific dollar amount to it, because it lets us have something to track back against when we are seeing where we're at later on against that goal, right? So if we don't write that down and we don't say that means $6,000 US this year, and then we come to the end of the year and we see that we've really only saved up, say, 3,000, well, that's half. That's better than nothing, but we didn't actually hit our goal, right? If we don't put that dollar amount down, guess what? Nothing is going to get saved at all. So Think about what you would like to do for yourself on a personal level. It can be as frivolous as, you know what, I have always wanted to own a convertible. Well, this might not be a goal that you're planning on trying to achieve in the next 6 months or 6 years. Maybe it's something that's further out there, but you still want it because it makes you feel good. It's okay to have quote unquote silly goals. Whatever you put down is yours. It's secret. No one needs to know it, but it helps you get really clear about what you want to achieve with money specifically in your life and what it's going to bring you. So we want to talk about what we don't want to keep doing, what we want to replace it with, how it's going to make you feel, like the benefit of it, dollar amount, time frame. On a relationship level, maybe it's taking that long overdue 10th anniversary trip with your spouse. For your business, it can be something short term, it can be something long term. I really recommend that you put down 3 to 4, probably no more than 4 goals per category here. And some of them can be shorter term, smaller dollar amount. Some of them might be longer term and longer dollar amount. They can be around profitability. It can be around having enough cash on hand to hire, a new person into your team. It might have something to do with some other version of marketing expense. Think about where you want your business to go and what your big goals are for it, and track it back to a monetary goal. And then we do the same thing with community. And that allows us to think about how we want to impact the world around us, not just for ourselves or for our family or within our business, but above and beyond that as well. This all comes down to the idea that if we know what we want, it's far easier to get and achieve than if it's something that's only half fleshed out. And finally, I want to talk about the word sufficiency. I think this is particularly pertinent in today's world where things have shifted quite significantly very quickly. I think a lot of us think about that term, sufficiency, as being negative, as being just enough to get by. And that feels bad, right? It feels like, that's not really, it's not abundant. But what if we define sufficiency as being everything that we need, but not necessarily anymore, right? The actual dollars here also don't really matter. Sufficiency for one person might be $1,000. From somebody else, it might be 100, right? A week. But society tells us that we're really supposed to be hungry around money. I'll never have enough. I don't have enough. I need more, right? It's very, very grabby. And we often are brought up and we hear it all around us that it's all about lack. It's never, never enough. And it doesn't really feel like a good way to live. But most of us learn it super early on and we don't know anything else. So consider for a second what enough really does mean to you. Does that mean living with your current couch instead of replacing it because you've had your eye on something fancier? Does it mean waiting to delay on a software upgrade in your business because you don't want to have to put it on a credit card? You'd rather pay for it with cash that you've accumulated? What else could you do with those funds if you didn't make that upgrade, which you don't technically need, but it just feels fun, right? What could we be doing differently? And most importantly, how would all of that feel? These are the kinds of questions that we can ask ourselves to really establish a new version of a sufficient life that might really surprise you, because many of us are caught in this loop where no matter what we do, we come back to the same place. So somebody who's growing a really fast business continually overspends to keep herself in a place where she is always in debt, because that's an old story. You hoard things and you buy things that you don't need so that you can feel good about the spend. And then 5 seconds later, you're actually in a worse place financially and the thing that you bought doesn't really do much for you. But the other version of that is being able to look at that critically and say, oh, okay, I can see what I'm doing there and I want to stop that. I'm going to try and change this and do this a little differently and ask myself, do I really need that thing to feel sufficient, to feel positively full in my life? So if we can flip that from a negative loaded connotation to a goal that says, how efficient and sufficient can I be in my life, in my business, around money, it can really change what happens from a profitability standpoint, what happens from an effectiveness standpoint in your business and beyond. So I want you to think a little bit this week about clarity, what your big goals are. Is your business actually moving you toward them? Are your spending decisions helping you get another step toward them? And if not, what can we do to tweak that in a way that isn't going to feel like you just have to put the brakes on everything? Because that doesn't really work either. The whole goal of this conversation is just to have us take a look and say, what can be changed for the better. I hope this is helpful. If you'd like to talk more about clarity and a lot of other things on the Zen Money process, you are welcome to join us with our brand new workshop series, Zen Money Mastery. Absolutely free. You're going to walk through the 6 steps of the Zen Money process, and all you have to do to register for that is go to zenmoneymap.com/workshop to sign up. Everything will get delivered straight to you. You can watch it on your own time, and hopefully it will help you take this conversation to an even greater level.